The man having the living daylights beaten out of him is a Berber, a native of Morocco. His assailant is an Arab. His ancestors conquered the Berbers 1300 years ago. They're acting out an ancient conflict, but there are those who'll tell you the argument between Berber and Arab has never changed. In Morocco, even the very name Berber is a controversial one. For militants like Miriam, the word Berber is a term that sums up the contemptuous treatment of her people by conquerors as far back as the Romans.
Parce que le mot berbère, étymologiquement parlant, veut dire de la forêt, veut dire sauvage. C'est un mot qui vient du grec, que les Romains aussi ont utilisé, que les Français utilisent sous forme de berbère et que les Arabes utilisent sous forme de barbare. Et c'est un mot qui n'existe pas dans notre langue. Nous nous appelons Amazigh et non pas berbère.
So they're not Berbers, they're Amazigh, and they make up at least 65% of the population. Yet the Amazigh learn Arabic at schools in which their language and their history is never mentioned, and their king has Arab roots stretching back to the Prophet Muhammad. They have a word for what's happening to them. They are being Arabized.
Oui, c'est pour ça que nous militons aujourd'hui, pour que notre langue et notre culture ne disparaissent pas sur Terre.
Miriam wants to take us to Amazigh heartland, to Imishil, and the festival known as the Mousem des Fiancés, roughly translated, the marriage market.
C'est très joli dans cette région.
Mais le Maroc en général c'est très joli, mais il n'y a pas qu'ici,
ouais.
Partout.
Partout, oui.
Mais, le pays des Amazigh, c'est le plus beau qui puisse exister sur Terre.
Ah oui, tu penses?
But isolation has its price. Many Amazigh live without running water, or doctors, or hospitals, or even reliable roads.
Nous avons un problème à deux.
Ah ouais,
ouais, yalla.
La route est coupée.
Yalla, oui.
Oh, et la route est coupée. We find the direct road through a mountain pass to Imishil has been washed out. Our driver, Hadou, reckons on at least a 6-hour detour around the mountains. The extra hours mean we spend a night by the road. It's a chance for Miriam to explain that while the Imishil marriage market has a long history, she believes its nature is changing as the government turns it into a tourist event.
Bon, maintenant, qu'est-ce qu'on attend demain? J'en sais trop rien, parce que depuis que c'est organisé par les autorités, on se méfie un peu, on se demande si c'est toujours authentique.
The next morning, it's as if we've traveled back through centuries. A landscape so rugged, so isolated and inhospitable, it's a wonder to me that people live here at all. Yet out of this apparent wasteland come the Amazigh people. It's as if the whole countryside is on the move. Whatever transport the Amazigh can find, they use to make their way to the town of Imishil. It's a time when the normally shy and cloistered young Amazigh women find a measure of freedom unique in this part of the world. Under their families' watchful eyes, they'll have a chance to roam and to meet and talk to potential husbands. Imishil, the last great market before the onslaught of winter. 3 days for scattered Amazigh tribes to meet before the snows set in. Over the centuries, some things have changed a little. The livestock market continues its age-old discussions, haggling over camels and mules. But there are some new faces now. It's one of the few times of the year when Amazigh villagers run across government officials. And when the tribesmen tell us about their problems, such as drought and falling prices for camels, we're interrupted. I'd noticed him following us. Maybe it was the dark glasses that gave him away. A government official, keeping an eye on them and on us. This is the only time of year when government officials make their presence felt here. The governor's arrival is intended as a symbol of a powerful but remote Arab-dominated government in Rabat. What was once simply an Amazigh event has been turned into something more, a celebration of national authority. And in the process, ordinary Amazigh find themselves increasingly excluded from their own festivities. Not only excluded, but becoming objects of curiosity, as the government, with an eye to the tourist dollar, gives free rein to a growing number of tourists and journalists.
We kind of invade the place, and the local people who just, perhaps may well want to just get on with their own Muslim and not have us around, they're kind of a bit overwhelmed.
The increasing commercialization of the festival has been watched by British photographer Alan Keohane in the dozen years he's been coming here.
The government wants to have people nicely dressed in traditional costumes to pose for the photographers, and the photographers are desperate to get those kind of photographs. But at the same time, it's incredibly shameful for nice girls to pose for photographers. To them, almost a form of pornography. So you have this contradiction, conflict of interests.
So why are they here then?
They're here because they've been asked to come here, and it's to an extent it's an honour, but also it's they haven't got a great deal of choice.
Attempts to broaden the Muslim's appeal can border on the bizarre. Miriam objects to outsiders like Tarzan here turning the Muslim into a carnival sideshow.
Mais il n'est pas d'ici, hein, il est de très loin, il est du Tarzan, c'est une région qui est pas du tout Amazigh.
What angers Miriam is that while her people are being written out of the nation's history books, their traditions are being stage managed for tourist dollars.
Ce qui m'a surtout embêté, c'est les filles qui sont les Arabes déguisés en Amazigh. Là, je trouvais ça un peu fort.
Ouais.
Pour prendre des photos, pour le souvenir avec les touristes. Ça ressemble un peu aux Indiens d'Amérique, avec la plume.
Ah oui.
Terminez des cérémonies, s'il vous plaît. S'il vous plaît, là-bas.
Having put in an appearance for a couple of hours, the governor leaves, unable to spare the time to talk about sensitive Amazigh issues. But Miriam has found like-minded militants who are driven to discuss exactly those issues.
Tu crois qu'on est ici depuis 33 siècles? On n'a pas d'histoire. Si on l'a, mais les cachettes. Il faut réécrire l'histoire du Maroc.
Réécrire l'histoire, parce qu'on nous l'a volé.
Parce qu'on a des hommes ici. On n'a qu'un petit paragraphe dans l'histoire. Un petit paragraphe. Xint.
Même ce petit paragraphe, ils l'ont fait sauter.
Ah ouais. Un petit paragraphe d'Amazigh.
Excuse-moi.
Ouais.
Zaid has recognized Miriam as a kindred spirit from the T-shirt she's wearing. Its Amazigh lettering a symbol of militancy and regarded as subversive by the government.
J'avais d'ailleurs la même, mais autocollant, que je collais derrière ma voiture et je circule avec.
Et qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
Mais finalement, les autorités me l'ont enlevé.
Ils nous ont enlevé.
Ah oui?
Ouais.
Oui.
Il ne faut pas se promener avec ça dans la voiture.
Miriam and her friends are militants, not revolutionaries. But there's no way to pursue their cause through the ballot box in Morocco. No political means to express their passions.
Mes enfants ne parlent que ça. Il n'est pas enseigné à l'école. Comment voulez-vous un petit garçon, un enfant, avant d'entrer à la crèche, est obligé de passer par une autre langue pour apprendre la vie, alors qu'il a sa propre langue?
Oui.
Donc le militantisme ici est nécessaire.
While insiders argue the politics and outsiders soak up the atmosphere, there is still traditional business afoot, the matter of love and marriage. Young women have a say in who they marry and can demand divorce and later remarry, all without social stigma. It's the romance, of course, that attracts the tourists. But Miriam rejects the portrayal of the Musem as some sort of North African love fest.
Bon, là, je crois qu'ils profitent de l'occasion seulement pour avoir leur papier, hein. Ouais. Mais je pense pas qu'il doit y avoir tout ce scénario de je viens au marché pour acheter une femme comme je viens pour acheter une vache. Non, ça c'est...
Amazigh women are by upbringing timid in public, so one can only speculate on their thoughts on this, their official, government-approved wedding day.
On se fait un petit cercle, tous, et les caméras et tout le monde en place.
What should be a dignified, joyous event becomes a publicity zoo.
I think they're kind of dying of shame or embarrassment. I think it must be horrible. It's nice to be a spectator, but at the same time you've got to bear in mind that the real people who want to come and see it are, their family and friends. They're all stuck behind the barrier. And because we've got press cards and, we're tourists and the Ministry of Tourism wants us to come here, we get access to it.
The press, unfortunately, with encouragement from the tourist authorities, sells stories built on extraordinary myths about Imashil. I've read you can buy a bride for a mere 3 bags of sugar. Such distortions outrage Miriam and her friends.
C'est une société qui a tendance à être matriarcale, comme des Touaregs. C'est la femme qui commande à la maison. Oui. C'est la femme qui fait tout.
Oui.
C'est la société berbère typique.
Oui.
Comment est-ce possible que des berbères vendent des femmes? Est-ce que vous avez vu des femmes se vendre ici?
Zaid wants to strip away the myths and takes us to a nearby village to meet one of today's bridegrooms and to better understand Amazigh problems.
Il y a une école ici, seulement, voilà, il y a peu de gens qui vont à l'école, oui, pour une simple raison.
Oui.
L'enseignant, l'instituteur, il vient des régions arabophones, oui, il vient ici, il ne peut pas vivre, il ne communique pas avec les gens. Dans le système des choses actuelles, c'est qu'il faut un traducteur entre l'enseignant et l'enseigné. Tu vas à l'école? T'as tous l'école?
It seems only 1 in 5 children here go to school at all. Those who do learn in Arabic and, because of Morocco's colonial history, in French. What they learn about their own identity, they do so in their own home. When we meet the bridegroom from the Musem, he takes us to his village house. Hussein's bride is too bashful to meet strangers. His mother, by contrast, is simply annoyed, put out more by us filming the state of her courtyard and her animals than by our unexpected arrival. Like all Amazigh, Hussein's real wedding will actually take place in the village. But he had to go to the marriage festival because it's the only time of year to get the obligatory government marriage certificate. Far from buying his bride, Hussein says he'll give her $200 hard-earned dollars for her wedding gift. But he's annoyed at forking out another $30 for a certificate that's meaningless in Amazigh society, and he can't read it anyway. At night time, with government officials gone, the local tribes regain possession of their festival. Almost. The tourists remain, of course, to enjoy the ambience. And the trinket sellers, well, they're city folk, here to turn a buck. And when we stop into a tent to while away the evening, we find out it's not Amazigh music at all. They're an Arab group, invited by the government to perform at this Amazigh festival. Later, I ask Miriam if she's been saddened by what she saw at Imeshil.
Ben oui, parce que nous étions sûrement 99% ou quelque chose de ce genre. Nous sommes aujourd'hui 70. Demain, ça sera 60, 50, 40, 30, et puis on sera comme les Indiens d'Amérique.
In the morning, the tourists leave with their trinkets and their memories. The Amazigh go home too, home to the mountains, to wait for the long, cold winter. Of course, the tourist name from the house, also into the sign of the trinkets. There will sit as look here to tax number. We went up its donation to 10 and what to wait while the others finally faded out non when you hear the physical fall. But to that narrow group, by all added by the government in to back this Zima Fair for asking it I asked Miriam if something bad I what she said what she me
Skip nous disons aujourd'hui 150, moins demain ce sera 500, les Allemands, 40, on se plaint par les peines bien, Eric d'Amérique.
More trigger tourists for some believe that will think for slims and their immersions and that papers. Was the Amazigh go home to go home to them into night and cold wafted from heat all and hobbled by into the tourists from the tourists remain to enjoy the ambience. Second else, well then that's so flood, here there to sit back, here to turn back. To a tent, and when we stop in evening to while away the evening to the we find out also not there can be music at all. By an Arab group to inform by the government to perform this Amazigh festival. Later, I missed Miriam. Later, I asked by Miriam if she's been saddened what she saw at Imeshil.
Oui, parce que nous étions sûrement 19%, donc des choses de nous sommes aujourd'hui 70, demain ça sera 60, 50, les 40, 30, puis l'Amérique. Amérique.
The tourists in the morning, the drink tourists and leave and their memories. The Amazigh go home to the mountains, or keep the mountains, all have to wait for the long winter.